episode 32 of the Single Barrel Sports Podcast. Welcome in. My name is Deeb.
My name is Scott.
Let's do this.
Pat McAfee said today we got our guy.
How many sixth graders would it take to beat LeBron James in a game? Ready for the ultimate sleepers?
Shedeur Sanders went number 144 in the draft. We are back, and football is closer than ever. This is episode 32. We got a full slate tonight, talking about mostly football, sprinkling a little bit of other sports. But before we dive into that, let's say our hellos, my friend. Deeb, what's going on with you, friend? How are things?
Yo, back again. Number 32. It's kind of wild. We're, 8 months into the year? And we're still doing this, which is crazy. But things are going pretty well, man. We're about close to 1 week away from our first game for high school football. So it's getting intense. You know, we got team camp, we got scrimmages, we got all sorts of fun stuff going on, getting everybody prepared for that. And then just got a new putter. So it actually literally just came in the mail today. I haven't even opened it yet, which is wild because I just had a busy day, but I got kind of like a custom fit, to my specifics of my body and all that, lie angle, etc. So super excited to start trying that out. You know, we're kind of at the tail end of our league, so I might have to wait a little because I don't want to jack anything up too bad at the end here. But no, other than that, man, things have been pretty good, productive. Summer's hopefully coming to a close, and we're headed towards the fall and better weather. What's going on with you?
Well, hell yeah, man. That sounds exciting. I don't have any news like that. It's been a relatively normal, average week for me. And I've actually haven't done a whole lot. I've been battling, I don't know if it's an illness or what's going on, but I've had like a headache / migraine pretty much every single day now since Friday. It's been like 5 days. And I don't know, it's just weird. I've had migraines in the past, but they usually will go away after a day or so. And this one just feels like it gets a little better, but it doesn't go away, and then it comes back again. So, yeah, I've been taking it pretty easy, focusing on just trying to stay rested and getting through work. But we're good for the podcast. I got plenty of ibuprofen in my system, and we'll be good for tonight.
Hell yeah. Well, I'm sad to hear that you're feeling that way. I know you were texting me about it earlier, and that stuff is never fun because, it's hard to think and do things when your literal head is hurting. But I know you've kind of dealt with that a little bit in the past, so hopefully that gets better quickly.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
So, real quick before we get into the pod, just a quick reminder that, we are continuing to work towards growth. So, for those of you that are listening, you can find everything out there on singlebarrelsports.com. We do have a new merch store that was launched just a couple weeks ago. So we're constantly looking for feedback, items that we're, adding. We'll do some special releases and that sort of thing. So if you're interested in that, that is in that link at singlebarrelsports.com. And if you're not already and you appreciate the show, consider subscribing or following us. We really appreciate that a ton, and it helps us to continue to do what we love doing.
Yeah, and just shout out to those who have subscribed over the last week. It's nice to see some growth and some life over on some of our socials. And yeah, just thank you to everyone who's done that. We're going to keep putting out the content and trying new things.
Hell yeah. You ready to get into it?
Let's dive in, my friend.
All right. So, Scott, we have another sports term of the week back at it again. And apparently this is one that maybe you haven't heard of again. Is that 2 weeks in a row now that I've stumped you?
Yeah, you told me the term and I haven't heard of this one. It's kind of surprising I haven't heard of it. Usually I'm on top of these things and terminology, but
Yeah.
this one is a new one for me and not one that I've ever heard used before.
Well, this is one that is used a lot in football. When I say football, I mean, sometimes it's more informal. Like you're not going to always hear people saying it necessarily on broadcast, but sometimes you might hear it depending on who it was. But the term of the week is hog mollies. So Scott, if you had to take a general guess, what would you think that means?
I mean, hog makes me just think of like the trenches, like it's the big guys if it's football, but I don't know what Mollies has to do with it or anything like that.
Yep. It's not a pig, but it has kind of a similar meaning. Like the pigs are usually bigger, fatter, etc. Bigger animals, and then the Molly part, I'm with you. That one kind of doesn't really make any sense, but apparently, it's rooted in where the name came from. It's from the Washington Hogs. So there was a team in the 1980s called the Washington Hogs, and they had an offensive line, and it kind of caught on. And the person who really made it more of a mainstream thing, RIP, is John Madden. So he's kind of one of those announcers back in the day where they started to use that term, like, "Oh, it's the hog mollies that are, carrying the weight up front and doing a great job." Basically, it's like an old slang term for big slash heavy set. But it's generally used to describe the offensive line. Can also potentially be used. I think sometimes people use it for both offensive and defensive, but most of the time, when I've heard it used, it's been for offensive linemen. It's like the muscle in the trenches. So, um,
Interesting.
yeah, it's one of those weird, kind of just slang nickname terms that people sometimes use, and I've heard it used a lot in high school football. So it made me think of it, and I was like, this might be a good one to bring to the
It
pod.
kinda makes sense. I feel like high school coaches oftentimes use, like, historic language and just try to be a little unique, but that maybe because I loved my linemen, but I didn't really spend a lot of time in practice with them unless we were running plays. Maybe it's just something that I missed out on going through my sports, I don't know.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, just kind of a fun slash folksy slang term for one of the positions out there in football. So
Well,
that
that's a
is our
new one for me. Yeah, hey, anyone listening, if that's a new thing for you, let us know because that's the whole point of this segment here is sharing terminology that might not be frequently used or understood.
hell yeah. All right. Well, let's move into the weekly recap. We got just a couple things. I think we're going to spend a little bit more time on the interactive section this week, but we just had a couple player team stories that we wanted to go over, right?
Yeah, it still is preseason football, and a lot of things happen. It's tough to keep up with at times, and with us only having one episode a week, sometimes by the time our episode launches, it can feel dated. But we are recording on Tuesday, and some of this news has really come out over the last 24 hours. So hopefully, this will still be very relevant come Thursday before any more of our football games are played. The first thing being that the Indianapolis Colts today just came out and named Daniel Jones as their starter. So Danny Dimes will be starting. As Pat McAfee said several months ago, they got their guy in Indianapolis. We'll see how that goes. It's I think Daniel Jones is an anomaly because he mechanically looks pretty good. He is a pretty physically gifted quarterback who showed some signs of promise in New York, but never really put it together with any type of consistency. So, what do you think, Deeb? Do you think Daniel Jones could right the ship out there in Indy, or how do you think that the season's going to go with him at the helm?
Um, well, okay. The first question I have before, because I didn't actually look this up, but is Anthony Richardson injured? Like I thought I saw he like broke his finger or something in a preseason game, but is it do you know if the decision was based on like a QB battle, or was it like, hey, he's injured, so Daniel Jones is now the starter?
Yeah, my understanding is so. First of all, yes, Anthony Richardson. I think he just dislocated a pinky or something. It was a finger that he hurt in the first preseason game.
Yeah,
But my understanding is that they've been kind of doing kind of a QB battle all off season, and that this is unrelated to the injury. That the team just decided to go in the direction of Daniel Jones,
gotcha.
and some of the players have talked about like the competitiveness, the intensity, the focus that Daniel Jones has, and the ways they describe it kind of seems like maybe they haven't seen that same thing from Richardson. So I'm assuming maybe that's why Danny Dimes was chosen to be the starter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, what are your thoughts on that? Because obviously he hasn't had historically a great career so far. Do you think that he could be, better for this team?
Yeah, I just looked up some of his stats because I was just generally curious, like, how has he performed in the past? Obviously, I think some of the years he may have been injured for a few games, like in 23, he only played 6 games. Last year says he played 10 games. I mean, he had, like in 2022, he had 3,200 yards. He had 15 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. But outside of that, I mean, his production has been pretty low, like, from a touchdown perspective. I mean, 24 is the most he's thrown his rookie year, and he had 12 picks. So the part that's hard to judge here is, was it truly like a Giants problem where the Giants sucked and so he really didn't have a lot of talent to work with? Or was it a Daniel Jones problem, or was it a combo of both? It's usually something in the middle. So, I mean, I don't know. The Colts are not really that. I'm not saying they're not that much more talented, but they don't have, like, the craziest talent on offense, if I'm not mistaken. Like, do they still have Jonathan Taylor? I mean,
Mhm.
maybe he has a little more run support than what he had prior, but I don't know. Should be interesting. He had Saquon Barkley. Like, come on. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
mean, that is an interesting thing when you think about that the Giants have historically sucked with him, but the team itself hasn't been that horrible the whole time.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's really tough to say. I will say that team is looking better offensively.
Yeah.
They got Tyler Warren, the tight end in the draft. They've got a couple of okay wide receivers, but yeah, Jonathan Taylor's kind of the glue there with the addition of that new tight end. I mean, Michael Pittman Jr.'s there, but I feel like he's had some inconsistency in his career, although they
Mhm.
haven't had any consistency at the quarterback position. So maybe that's the issue here.
That's true, yeah.
The interesting thing that, or at least that I think is very interesting, is Anthony Richardson. When he was drafted, he was a physical freak. I mean, people were talking about how gifted he was just as an athlete. He was projected to be very good. Even last year, coming into the season, still projected semi high. Although the season before that was, I think, his big hype season.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, last season didn't go great, and then here we are with him losing his job now this year. The craziest thing is I think this is his third NFL season.
Yep.
He's only 23 years old still. I mean, he's still so young. There are quarterbacks that were drafted this year that are actually older than him. So who knows? I mean, he's got some time maybe to come back and redeem himself, but we'll see,
Yeah.
man. It's who knows? This could be the last that we see of him. I don't know. It's tough to say. He's so young still.
I think he's super physically talented. He just, no, I can't tell if it's just having trouble adjusting to the speed, or,
Yeah, I
some
mean,
of it's like,
he played 11 games last year and he had 8 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. And so I
yeah,
don't know if it's decision making, if it's the wrong scheme. Sometimes we see this where quarterbacks suck on one team or for several teams and then they shine all of a sudden, like Gino Smith last year, Sam Darnold last year, Baker Mayfield when he went to Tampa.
true.
So maybe if his agent gets to work right now and gets him into a different opportunity, maybe he'll shine somewhere else. But this could at least be the end of the chapter here, unless there's some injury with Daniel Jones.
Yep, for sure.
Cool. So yeah,
Um,
that's kind of breaking news that just happened today.
yep.
There's some other announcements regarding quarterbacks in the league, and this is something we've kind of talked about a little bit. But did you see the announcement with the Browns situation?
Uh, um, well, which one? Because there was, I think I know what you're talking about, but is it relating to depth chart?
Yeah, yeah. I was going to talk about kind of their quarterback outlook. They did come out and announce their Week 1 starter, which I don't think is surprising. But there's been a lot of crazy media, so maybe this was surprising to some people. But what did you see for that?
I mean, I think it's just kind of what we talked about last time, right? Flacco's first, and then the rookies are 3 and 4.
Yeah, exactly.
But did
Flacco's
they
first.
didn't talk about what's his name?
Haven't seen anything about Deshaun Watson,
Yeah,
which
Watson.
again could push Gabriel and Sanders down to 4 and 5 potentially. With Sanders getting all that media attention, he's sitting at either 4th or 5th on the depth chart, and that just again highlights the insanity of all the media that they've had around him.
Yeah.
But their coach came out, they announced the actual depth chart, they announced that Flacco will be starting Week 1. Maybe some of that stuff will finally get put to bed at least for a little while.
I mean, that's pretty sad when you have to have like a 40 whatever, however old he is, start at quarterback, and you just drafted 2 rookies. Come on. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah,
I
yeah, it's
mean,
pretty bad.
The thing I was thinking at first you were referring to was, did you see when they interviewed Dylan Gabriel about the QB battle, and he, like, said something about, there's, like, entertainers and competitors, and then everybody, like, flipped out, like, "Oh, why is he shitting on Shedeur?" And it's like, I mean, he's not lying, like
Well,
I mean, I get it, but he's kinda telling the truth, I don't know.
I mean, all he was really getting at was that he's here to compete. He's not here for any of the side hustles, and I think that's a respectable thing for a rookie to say. I think the only reason that was taken in that context is because Shedeur Sanders is on that team, and he is more of an entertainer and a guy that's being hyped up by the media. But Gabriel was actually interviewed after that to clarify his statement, and he said it had nothing to do with Sanders, which maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But who's going to hold it against him? If he said it wasn't about him, then what do you want him to say? At the end of the day, let the guy just be a rookie football player.
Yeah. Well, if he doesn't wanna own up to it, I'll own up to it for him. He was shit talking Sanders as he should.
Let's move over to Washington. Crazy shit going on in Washington. Have you seen all this stuff with Brian Robinson and
No,
rookie?
honestly, I haven't.
Well, let me talk to you about this because this is kind of crazy. So Brian Robinson Jr., he was their starting running back last season, and coming into this season, starting running back. And over the weekend, it was announced that he is on the trade block, that they're looking for a new home for him, which he was still listed as the number one running back on the depth chart. Kind of crazy. The Commanders picked up 7th round running back Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, otherwise known as Bill, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So everyone's talking about Bill on social media right now. 7th round running back, and I had to do a little research on this because I hadn't recognized that name. So this guy didn't play college football last year except for one game. He was I think it was at Arizona. I want to say it was regular Arizona, not state. And he played in the first game, had 106 yards and a touchdown, and didn't play again for the rest of the season. So I looked into this. Turns out that there was an investigation about his eligibility. Apparently, his first season back in like 2019, he played at Alabama State, and there was some confusion whether he played 4 games or 8 games. If you know anything about like the redshirting process, you can play up to 4 games and still redshirt, but if you play more than 4, you can't redshirt.
Yeah.
So apparently, Alabama State has said that he only played 4 games and then he redshirted and didn't play the rest of the season. But ESPN Stats, where they keep all of their like registered stats for all football teams, they had a record of him being in 8 different games. So apparently last year, when this was all going on and being investigated, basically Bill Krosky Merritt, or in college, I think he just went by Merritt. Apparently they said that he had a uniform change with another player where they changed numbers. And so that caused the confusion where the stats were being recorded under his name because they changed jersey numbers, and Alabama State didn't realize that was happening. So that's why all these statistical records got messed up, and his eligibility was screwed up because of that. Now, who knows if that's true? Maybe that's not true. Maybe he did play 8 games. But what we do know is true is he only played 1 game last year. He was drafted in the 7th round despite only playing 1 game. So basically, the film must have told a story that this guy was worth taking a chance on. And apparently, he has taken the Washington Commanders by storm. They love this guy. They view him as the future of the running back position for their team. He's been dominating in the offseason. He's been dominating in the preseason. I said last week preseason doesn't mean anything. But I know in one of his games, I saw he had like 24 rushing yards and like, I don't know, two or three touches. And 22 of the 24 yards were after contact. So it's just like,
Wow.
Apparently this guy is just a beast. He scored, I think, in both of his preseason games, at least in one of them. I know he did. Just one of those weird stories that you see. And so just kind of a wild thing to think that they drafted a guy at the end of the draft who hadn't played college football last year and is now taking over the potentially starting week 1 and kicking out their starter from last year just out of nowhere. So kind of a crazy situation here.
So he's on the trading block because they like this other guy so much better? Like, that's the reason why?
It sounds like they view their rookie as kind of the future of the position for their team. And they
Interesting.
still have like Austin Eckler and other guys that can be like the backup, for the rookie. And so it sounds like Brian Robinson, who's trying to be a starting running back, they're just trying to get value out of him and ship him to another team. And I mean, who knows what's going to happen with that? But I could see him being, a guy for like the Cowboys or maybe going to the Bears and splitting time with Swift. I mean, there's some teams that might be interested in him. I could definitely see that. It's just kind of crazy though that it's seemingly out of nowhere. Like this guy is all of the hype just over the last couple of weeks. And now all of a sudden they're just like, yeah, we're going to like invest in this guy and get rid of our starting quarter running back from last year.
All because he looks like Little Bill.
Yeah. The nickname Bill comes from, apparently there's an animated show called Little Bill, and there's a childhood nickname that he prefers to go by Bill. And so that's why if you see on social media, a lot of people are saying to draft Bill. Everyone's talking about Bill right now.
Oh, I know Little Bill. You don't know Little Bill?
No, I missed out on a lot of cartoons as a
I
child.
I wonder like what character he looks. Oh, I mean, he probably has to look like.
It sounds like he looks like Little Bill, and I think what I read is because he was like bald as a kid. I guess that character might be bald. I'm not.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, because I'm looking at him now, and I'm like, he doesn't look like Little Bill at all. But as a
Yeah,
kid, maybe
I think it's because when he was a kid, he was bald, so people started calling him that.
he does kind of look like him. I just found
Yeah,
like
so
a picture with a
just a
skull cap
crazy.
on, so he looks
Oh,
more
okay.
bald.
But isn't that kind of a crazy ass story? I mean, I feel like it literally just came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
I don't
that
know.
is.
Fun story though.
Yeah, I mean,
Hopefully it works out. I mean, I would love to see him succeed. This is a really cool story where he pretty much just didn't get to play a year of football and now
yeah.
is looking at maybe being like the team's guy, like out of nowhere.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. You never know. Like, I mean, you could be a seventh round pick and become a starter. Like, I mean, the NFL.
Tom Brady? Tom Brady
Yeah,
did that.
that's the thing is, you can get to the NFL, put in the work, have the talent. If you get the right coaching, right situation, right team, like it could be an all-star. I mean, that's
Oh
like
yeah.
that's the cool part. I mean, obviously it doesn't happen to everybody. Like it's not like every seventh round picked up, but like there's a good amount of guys that go late or undrafted that I mean, they become,
Oh yeah,
pretty damn
it's
good
not super
players.
uncommon for people undrafted or late round picks to like have decent careers, but to come in as a seventh round running back pick that didn't even play football last year and immediately take over the team is crazy to me. I mean, that is such a
Oh,
crazy
yeah.
thing where he hasn't played a single regular season snap yet, and they're pretty much like, "This is our guy. Like, we're gonna
Yeah.
be out with the old, and we're in with the new now."
No, yeah. That's very interesting, especially because Brian Robinson Jr. is not that old.
No, and honestly, I mean, it's not like he stood out as like a crazy, amazing, talented running back last year, but he had potential. I mean, he still played decent.
Yeah.
I mean, people started him in fantasy football leagues. It's not like he was like worthless.
Yeah, I mean, he only had 799 yards and 8 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Not
Did
the
he play every
best.
game? I can't remember if he had injuries or not.
He played 14 games. So,
Yeah. So he averaged like 50 yards a game or a little bit more
yeah.
than that. 60.
I mean, that's
Not
not
great.
that.
Not
Yeah,
great.
I was gonna say though, there was Eckler the backup.
Yeah. And he was mostly a receiving back last year, but he played more whenever Robinson was hurt.
Yeah.
I actually do remember that because I had Eckler on my bench in fantasy.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. So anyway, crazy stories with some of our players this offseason.
Yeah.
Other relevant news. I'm a Michigan guy, Deeb. Today, 5-star running back prospect, considered the number one running back in the 2026 class. Savion Hyder just committed to Michigan. So we got a 5-star quarterback that's going to be starting this year, Bryce Underwood, playing in his first college season as a true freshman. And next year, we got a 5-star running back coming in to supplement that. And I am excited to have really young talent at really critical positions. We'll see how things shake out. But one thing I thought was cool is this guy did like an Instagram live for his commit last night. And he had 4 teams on there, and one of them was Ohio State. So I just love that he ended up choosing Michigan, even though there was a few teams it looks like he was considering.
Did you do like the hat thing?
I didn't watch it, so I couldn't tell you. I'm sure that he
Oh.
probably had the hat, but yeah, he like advertising his stream had like 4 different teams' logos. Obviously, one was Michigan, but one was Ohio State also. So I was pretty pumped to see that he chose Michigan.
He picked them over Tennessee and Ohio State, it looks like.
Hell yeah.
Maybe there was one more. That's what I'm seeing here. Interesting.
It's good to see that Sharon Moore can actually recruit, because people were worried about that when Harbaugh left, and especially with all this controversy and the punishments coming out with the sign stealing, it's not really affecting their abilities to still be a functional and competitive team moving forward, thankfully.
Yeah,
So,
you didn't want to talk about that story.
that's last week's news at this point.
I'm just joking. Well, I mean, a lot of people are saying, well, Ohio State paid $20 million for their national championship, and so will Michigan.
Well, you know what? That's actually very true.
It's wild.
That stuff happened before the season of Michigan winning the championship. I just want to be very clear about that their championship run had nothing to do with that.
Mm-hmm. Well, Phil Knight, if you're listening, you have to put down a $20 million deposit to Oregon, because we now know what it takes. So, just FYI. So for the PGA Tour, we're not going to go over all the details, but Scotty Scheffler did win the BMW Championship this past week. Not really a big surprise. I mean, the guy's been incredible. I think we were kind of texting back and forth about some of the statistics earlier, but he had a pretty crazy chip in. I actually saw it live. I was watching when it happened, and I was just like, holy crap. Like, he hit it. I don't even remember how long it was, but he was definitely like near the green and chipped it. It was a pretty long distance from the flag. And just he did a nice bump and run, as we call it. Like, he hit it, let it just run a long way onto the green, and it just dropped right in, and it was crazy. And I was like, yeah, he's going to win. I think, what was the other person, like Robert McIntyre, that was contesting for the championship too?
Yeah, I mean, McIntyre was leading the whole weekend. I mean, starting Thursday, and Scotty did what Scotty does, and he passed him up on Sunday. And once he passed him, he didn't let it come back. He just held on to that.
Yeah, he's a snake. He just waits till Sunday.
There was a chance, I think, for McIntyre to still potentially come back. And then when Scotty chipped that in, that was pretty much game over. I mean, that was, I think, a birdie, which put him up, I think, 2 strokes at that point, but there was only 1 or 2 holes left. And you just knew it was over at that point. Like, once he hits that, he's not falling back. He's going to hold on to that lead.
Yeah. So now the question is will he win the FedEx Cup this coming week?
Yeah, he has no advantage going into this weekend. It's just the top 30 golfers for the season just duking it out with literally no advantage for anybody. So that is kind of tough, I feel like, for Scotty to, as dominant of a year as he has had, to have no advantage at all. But it makes for a really fun weekend for golf fans. So I'm really looking forward to watching.
Yeah, well, he's proven he doesn't need an advantage. So we'll see. See what happens there.
Absolutely.
All right. We're going to move into fan favorites, some interactive segments. We have a few of these tonight. Tried to put more in here for people to hopefully get some entertainment. But we know that fantasy football drafts are right around the corner. And so we are going to do a Would You Rather fantasy football draft edition to help anyone out there who's listening or who has a draft upcoming. I know our draft is, I think, a couple weekends from now on a Sunday, so I'm definitely starting to think about that. We do not do a dynasty league, so this is basically going to be geared towards those who are not in a dynasty league. So this is more so
redraft leagues.
Redraft leagues. I mean, there's probably other things it could apply to, but that's kind of the main goal, I think, is those kind of traditional leagues. So the way we're going to do it, I think, Scott, is we're going to go through a couple early round. So we'll go through a few of those, a couple of mid round or value plays, and then maybe some later round picks. Just to kind of talk through these. So which one did you want to start with? You want to do the early round? Do you want to go back and forth? How do you want to?
Let's just go back and forth. Yeah, we can both just debate all of them, because I think it's quick and easy to talk about here. And
okay,
really, I want to know what your thoughts are too.
Okay. Yep. So first one for early round would be Jahmir Chase or Bijan Robinson. Would you rather have a wide receiver 1 or an elite running back to start?
Wide receiver 1 all day, every day. It doesn't matter to me if it's PPR or not. If I have a chance to get the best wide receiver in the league, compared to maybe the best running back in the league, I'm going wide receiver every time. I just think that they tend to score more points. They tend to have fewer injuries overall. Not guaranteeing that. It depends if your quarterback leaves you hanging over the middle for a concussion, but Jamar Chase was the Triple Crown winner last year. I have a feeling he's probably going to lead the league in at least reception yards again this year. No reason not to take him for a very safe elite player on your team.
Yeah, I also agree. I switched my fantasy draft strategy a couple years ago to picking great wide receivers early on. I just was curious because it wasn't really a strategy that I used. And I finished second and third the past couple years. So, and that's just with kind of stacking wide receivers that are pretty damn good. And I've gotten kind of lucky, obviously, but I would definitely pick Chase if I had the choice between those two.
Yeah, and I will say, while we talk strategy here, that that strategy works best in my opinion for when you're talking elite, like the elite out of the elite.
Yep.
When we're talking later rounds or sleepers, I think it's easier to catch a sleeper or a breakout wide receiver than it is a sleeper or breakout running back.
Yep.
So I'm strictly talking about early rounds. When we're talking about elite players, I'm taking the wide receiver every time.
Yep. All right, go ahead for the second one.
Yeah, second one, Saquon Barkley or Jahmir Gibbs. So both these guys have been pretty dominant, but we got the bell cow, Saquon Barkley coming off of just an absolutely dominant season. Jahmir Gibbs having a little bit more youth and maybe versatility, maybe more of a pass catcher potentially. What are your thoughts on that, Deeb?
Ooh, that is a really tough one, especially with the year that Saquon Barkley had last year and almost breaking the record. I think the one question I have is on the Lions depth chart. This is something I need to look up real quick because I'm wondering, do they still like are they still going to be doing I mean, yeah, they still have David Montgomery. And so that's like the only downside. Like Gibbs is an incredible player. And when we saw David Montgomery get injured, you saw him shine. Like he clearly had to carry the load. But unfortunately, from a fantasy perspective, he misses out on some touchdowns and carries because they do that kind of split, and especially in the goal line. So for me, that's why I'm picking Saquon Barkley, just because he's I think a very clear number one on the Eagles, and they run the ball a lot. So from a fantasy perspective, I pick him.
Yeah, as much as I want to say that with the tush push and how many touchdowns Jalen Hurts steals from Saquon Barkley, it doesn't matter at all. That dude still he's their guy at that position. He's not going to have to split a lot of time with another running back. And I think maybe this year we'll start to see Gibbs take more time and Montgomery take less in Detroit. But the fact of the matter is that Montgomery's still going to get his. And Montgomery, I feel like, is a little bit better on those goal lines at just kind of going right up the gut and getting those touchdowns. So there's also some vulturing of touchdowns from Gibbs there. I think you would be silly to not, in a redraft league, you would be silly to not take Saquon Barkley this year as any. I think the only person I might put above him is Bijan Robinson. Saquon would be my number one or two out of all running backs.
That's fair. All right, next one. Justin Jefferson or Malik Neighbors? Do you want more of an established wide receiver who has some track record, or do you want more of a breakout rookie with a pretty high ceiling, and a couple new potential quarterbacks that's throwing him the ball?
Yeah, I mean, I think the quarterback situation is the question mark here. Based upon his history, you don't not pick Justin Jefferson, except for the fact that they have J.J. McCarthy playing, who has never taken a snap in a regular season football game. Conversely, though, the Giants, who knows how quickly they might have Jackson Dart starting out there, who also has never played in a regular season NFL game. Russell Wilson is not going to be a long-term answer there. Jameis Winston, probably not their long-term answer there. And so there's a lot of QB uncertainty. And when there's uncertainty like that, I go with the tried and true. Give me Justin Jefferson. But I do think if you'd say the same question about a year or two from now, when things have leveled out a little bit, Neighbors might be the pick. I mean, he's a freak. He's a beast, but so is Jefferson. And we
I mean,
know
do
that
you think
Jefferson can get
do
it
you
done.
think Malik Neighbors is even like a top 3 round pick in fantasy?
Top 3 round?
Yeah, within the first 3 rounds, you think he's kind of
Yeah.
falls in there?
Yeah. I mean, I would probably take him. I think because of his situation, I know that he's ranked in these ranking lists. He's ranked higher than a lot of people I think are better than him for this year. So there's some guys like Puka Nakua, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Drake London. Some of these guys fall after him in his rankings. I would probably take them over Neighbors, but I think Neighbors is still like a second or third round option in these drafts. I just don't think I would take him in the first round.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, first round's pretty wild unless he was getting the ball from like Tom Brady. That'd
Well,
be
yeah,
like
and people are willing to argue that. If people want to argue with that, I would love to hear the arguments because Malik Neighbors is an absolute monster at the position of wide receiver. And the reason I am reserved on picking him that early is not because of him. It's because of his situation.
yeah,
So we'll see.
QB. I gotcha. Okay. All right, you got the next one. We're gonna move into mid round in volume
Yeah, which
plays.
just kind of talked about one of these guys. So let's talk about wide receivers in the mid round. Nico Collins versus Puka Nakua. You've got Nico, who's been kind of a rising star over the last 2 years, but so is Puka. I mean, they're both young, very talented stars. So who are we looking at here? I mean, who would you pick, dude?
I mean, I had Nico Collins last year. He was one of my top picks and one of the top wide receivers that I took last year. And I mean, man, for the first few games, the guy was unreal. I'm telling you, I was like, he would score like 40, 30, 40 points. Like it was like fake. And then he got hurt. He made a comeback at the end, but he was on such a momentous streak, generally speaking. And so I think he has a ton of upside. I don't, it's, I mean, Puka Nakua, like, I don't necessarily know that he's, again, very super talented guy, but like he also got hurt last year. And so he was limited, in terms of like some of the production. So I'm just thinking again through their situations. I think the Texans are probably going to be a little bit better if I had to guess this year. So I'm probably going to stick with Nico Collins as long as he stays healthy. Because if he has any part of a season like he started last year, like it's a no-brainer. The guy's like unreal if that's what's going to happen. So I would bet on him.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. They both have a little bit of fragility. I think they both have potential for injury. I think Nico Collins depends more on the deep ball than maybe Puka Nakua does for his fantasy football production. But with that being said, he's done it well for 2 years. And CJ Stroud had a pretty down year last year compared to his rookie year, but that still lended itself to Nico Collins having a good year. I think a lot of this will depend on the situation, like we keep saying. And I feel like the Rams situation is kind of bleak right now. We don't really know. I mean, Matthew Stafford, up until yesterday, there were rumors that he might be retiring because of his back issues.
Mm-hmm.
Now we saw that he's on the practice field and planning to play, but that doesn't settle. That doesn't give you a settling feeling that they're going to have a great passing game. So I normally I would say Puka Nakua with the situation going on with Matt Stafford. If I'm drafting today with the limited knowledge that I have about his, season long outlook, I probably would play it safer and go with Nico Collins. If you're taking one of these guys, you're probably going to be able to pick another player really soon after. But you definitely want to make sure that the guy you choose in the first round or the early second round is going to be productive. So that would be my recommendation: to just play it a little safer and take Nico.
Okay. Next one we have Jonathan Taylor or Bucky Irving. Do you want a potentially reliable, more experienced running back, or a sophomore season? Not a rookie any longer, that had a pretty hot finish, and was one of my sleeper pickups last year, which did a lot of people dirty.
Give me Bucky or give me death. This is a guy that I said 4 months ago I could see him being a top 3 fantasy running back this year. And it wouldn't surprise me if he was the bars down number 1 fantasy football running back this year. I think that is a hot take, but this guy has all of the tangibles. He gets it done. He's on a decent offense, a good enough offense that he can still run the ball without having the box stacked against him. Jonathan Taylor is still productive after all this time. I thought he might fall off a bit. He still gets it done, but put my trust in Bucky. I'm a Bucky Irving guy. I think he's going to be the man here moving very soon. Very soon.
Hell yeah. Go Ducks. I don't know if you knew he played for Oregon or not, but he did.
I didn't. I mean, I don't follow college quite as closely as you do, so no, I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, he was incredible there. Like, whenever he touched the ball, it was one of those players where you were like, he could literally break an 80-yard run at any time. Like, he
Mhm.
was, I think, very underappreciated and underrated. The challenge of probably why you never heard of him is because they had about 3 reasonable running backs and they split time. So he wasn't like a Jeanty, where he was like the only star on the team. So he kinda got a weird, like, didn't always carry the ball every play, but they might as well gave it to him every play. Every time I watched him play, I was like, "This guy's amazing." So, I mean, I agree with you. I don't know if he's gonna be the number 1 running back next year. Like, I could definitely see him being in the top 5 for sure. Jonathan Taylor, I just looked at some of his stats because I was curious. Like, he had a pretty good year. He had 1,400 yards, 11 touchdowns. I mean, I think couple of years before, like, he's been pretty consistent. They're probably
Oh
gonna
yeah.
have to run the ball because of Daniel Jones may or may not be good. We'll have to see what ends up happening, but I like Bucky on the upside. I'm probably it depends on what round we're talking. Like, I'm probably picking Bucky in, like, the 3rd round if I can get him. I'm not taking him, like, 1st or 2nd round, in my opinion. I'm trying to see if he slips, but I don't know if he will because
I
of
think they're
last
both
year.
second round picks. I think Bucky Irving is a late second round pick at best. Someone
Yeah,
might take him in the middle of the second. That's my projection.
that's fair.
But I think they both go in the second. So then it does come down to who do you want more?
Yeah. Alright, what's next?
Dak Prescott or Geno Smith? Obviously, Dak is a little safer, had more of a consistent career, as much as I hate to admit that. Geno Smith, easier to draft. He's going to be much further down. You can get him in a later round, but he's only really had one good season in his career, and now he's on a different team than he was when he had that good season. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I do also think you can get Gino later. So in terms of mid rounds, like, value play, I mean, maybe I'm drafting him later on if I really need a QB. I don't know that I'm taking him 4th round or 5th round, or you know what I mean? He's definitely a guy that he might even go undrafted. Dak Prescott all literally depends on his health. Like, the guy can throw for almost 5,000 yards. I mean, I looked at a couple of his seasons. He had 4,900. He had 4,500 in 2023, 36 touchdowns. Like, he's got CD Lamb. He now has, what's his name? George
George
Pickens.
Pickens. Yep.
I mean, he has some weapons. He has more weapons than what he had. If he stays healthy, like, I'd probably pick Dak in this.
Fair enough. My redraft fantasy football strategy has always been stack as many running backs and wide receivers as you can for depth and talent and take a quarterback late. So I would probably recommend if it was me drafting this, I would not be taking Dak Prescott. I don't know if Geno Smith is who I want, but I would be drafting a quarterback late and talking like round 10, 11, someone who's going to be serviceable that will start all year, that might not even be in the top 15 at their position, but they're going to play,
Mhm.
but you're going to be really good at every other position because you didn't use that early pick on a quarterback. So you got another really good wide receiver or running back for those rounds. That's my
Yeah.
strategy typically in these leagues. It tends to pay off well, unless you get a guy like Josh Allen in like the 3rd or 4th round, which if you can do that, that might be worthwhile. But most of the time, like the Lamars, the Allens, they're going to go within the first couple of rounds.
Yeah. That's fair. All right, last one for this section, and then maybe we can just kind of rapid fire the later round breakouts since those are more all speculative. But
Yeah.
Tyler Warren or George Kittle, so rookie tight end with some upside or established veteran.
Give me Kittle for a redraft league. If we're talking dynasty league, I'd probably go Warren here. Kittle, I mean, in most leagues, Kittle was the tight end 1 last year, and the other leagues he was tight end 2, depending on how scoring worked. He's a touchdown machine with Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy just got a long-term contract extension. I'm riding with Kittle this year over Tyler Warren, but I do think Tyler Warren will be better in the very near future.
Oh man, well, I'm probably going to go with Tyler Warren just for the unexpected. I think I've had a good history of drafting rookie tight ends. So I drafted, um, oh my gosh,
Laporta.
Laporta his
Yep.
rookie year. Crazy. Didn't do as well last year. And then last year I drafted Brock Bowers later. So I've had a pretty good run. So give me Kyler Warren to see
I
if
w-
I can go on another run.
and I will say kind of the same thing I just talked about with the QBs. You can get Tyler Warren later in the draft. So that actually might be a good strategy to target someone like him who, even if they start a little slow, will probably be good by the midpoint in the season. And I trust Daniel Jones to throw him the ball a lot more than I trusted Anthony Richardson to throw him the ball. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's looking more appealing. And again, if you can get a top wide receiver or running back, then yeah, maybe you wait and hold out for a rookie tight end instead of George Kittle. Yeah, I could see it either way.
Okay. What do we have for our late round or more breakout type
Oh,
player?
this first one's going to be really fun. So late round breakouts, later rounds, we're talking rookies a lot here. Would you rather have Ashton Jeanty or Omarion Hampton for a redraft league?
Um, I mean, I gotta put my money where my mouth is. Ashton Jeanty. They're gonna need him. He's gonna struggle like we talked about, but they're gonna give him the ball. I mean, Gino
He's going
Smith
to be a
doesn't have
workhorse.
that many weapons.
He's going to be a workhorse, and he proved in the second preseason game that he's not a bum. I know some people were scared after his first one, but he truck sticked somebody so hard in the second game, and I was like, there he is. There he is. I would probably go with Genty as well, but Hampton is appealing because you can get him later, a little later, not much later in the draft.
Mhm.
And he's on a better team. He might just have less coverage on him specifically because he's not as needed, but he also might lose some touches to Najee Harris. So um,
Yep.
I would probably go Genty, but I don't feel strongly either way.
All right. Tet McMillan or Drake London?
Ooh, I think Tet is going to be really good, but I would take Drake London over Tet at this point. I think London had a really strong year last year, and he's going to just keep capitalizing from that.
Yeah, I got the opposite. I like to bet on the rookie
Hmm.
here. I mean, again, if I'm talking later round or potential breakouts, that's who I'm going with for that.
Yeah, and again, these rookies you can get later in the draft. You know,
Yeah,
someone
for
like
sure.
Drake London's going to go in the second round. Tet might go around 4 or 5.
Yeah. What's the next one? Is it me or you? I'm trying to remember.
It's me. It's going to be
Okay.
Chuba Hubbard versus Kenneth Walker. Who do you got?
I don't really like either of them. I mean, maybe Kenneth Walker. I don't know if I absolutely had to. I'm probably not drafting either, if you want me to be honest.
I wouldn't feel great about Kenneth Walker this year. I think he's a very talented guy. He had a good productive year last year, but he's got some injury issues, and I actually feel like Sharp might take over that backfield at some point. So
Yeah,
give me Hubbard. Chuba had a good year last year, and he kind of did solidify himself as the back there. I would take that over Kenneth.
that's fair. Um, Marvin Harrison Jr. or Travis Hunter?
Not even close. I actually don't think Travis Hunter is going to be a good, viable fantasy football player, especially if he's trying to play both sides of the ball. I just can't see him being productive at the top of the level at both of them or either of them. So Marvin Harrison Jr., I don't care about what round it is. I don't want to draft Travis Hunter.
Everybody already knows my answer, so I'm gonna continue on. All right. For the last one, you have to pick one of these players. So who are the four?
JJ McCarthy, Sam Darnold on a new team, Bo Nix, or Michael Penix Jr. CBS, I'm looking at you. Penix.
I'm picking Bo Nix. I think
Good.
he's gonna be a top 8 quarterback this coming year in fantasy.
I'm a Bo guy. The way he handled his team in the second half of the season last year sold me. I'm a Bo guy. I'd take Bo Nix as well.
Yeah, Bo.
All right, what we got
Well,
next on tap here? That was a really good segment. Hopefully, people will find value in that. I know a lot of fantasy football drafts are happening right now.
hell yeah. Well, this next one should be actually pretty quick. It's just essentially a simple segment, two truths, one lie. So I have two different prompts that I'm going to read to you, and I'm going to ask you, Scott, to try to figure out what is the lie and what are the truths. So,
Okay,
you ready for these?
let's get it. Yeah, let's
Okay,
do it.
so 2 truths and 1 lie. All right, so the first one is in the 2025 NFL preseason, the Steelers kicker Chris Boswell drilled a 70-yard field goal 4 yards longer than the regular season record. The second one is Usain Bolt, arguably the fastest man ever, reportedly ate only McDonald's chicken nuggets during his record-breaking 2008 Beijing Olympic run and still won double gold. And the last one is that Michael Jordan wore 4 numbers in his basketball career: 23, 45, 9, and 12.
Well, I know the answer to this. I don't know that these are great prompts here, but I know for a fact that it was the Jacksonville Jaguars kicker that made the 70-yard field goal. My buddy Jordan, who is on this podcast a lot, is a Jags fan, and I remember texting him and saying, "Well, I guess they don't have to worry about how good Trevor Lawrence is because he only needs to get a couple first downs so they can score 3 points."
Wow. Is that your final answer?
Yeah, I'm 100% of that.
All right. You are correct. That is the lie.
I didn't know these other two, but I knew for a fact that that one was a lie. So that's the only reason I knew that.
Yeah. Well, I tried to make a little obscure, or try to kind of make you second guess a little of like, okay, did he wear 4 numbers and what were the numbers? So,
I would have never known that. Yeah, I only knew that because I remember texting Jordan because he's
yeah.
a big Jags fan.
Oh, that's fair. All right. And for those of you at home, what did you think? Did you guess the right lie, or what did you get fooled by the prompts? All right, second one. In 2024, Patrick Mahomes became the quickest quarterback to 30,000 passing yards in 103 games. In 2024, the Buffalo Bills were the first ever team to lose despite scoring 6+ touchdowns and having 0 turnovers. In 2025, at the PGA Championship, Michael Kim aced a 252-yard 5-wood shot, shattering the record for the longest hole-in-one in major history.
No, this is going to be the second one. The second one is a lie, where the Bills were the first ever team to lose despite scoring 6+ touchdowns and having 0 turnovers. I think, if memory serves me, this was the Detroit Lions last year.
Well, I don't know. What do you think? Final answer?
That's my final answer. Yeah.
Well, you are incorrect.
Then it was Michael Kim. It
Yeah.
had to have been. Damn it.
So it wasn't Michael Kim, it was Siwoo Kim.
Okay.
Yes, who
I
had
didn't know that about the Bills. I remember the Lions had a game where they scored a bunch of touchdowns and lost, and then they had a game where they had a shit ton of turnovers and they won. I remember it being a really weird thing, but it
Yep.
must have been 5 touchdowns instead of 6.
Yep. Yeah, it was pretty close. I'm trying to remember. I think it was when they played the Rams, if I'm not mistaken. It was that game when this happened, because it was like a high scoring. It was like 44-42 or something crazy like that.
Gotcha. Well, hey, you got me with one of them. I felt pretty good about that, but I was wrong.
Yeah, I mean, the devil's in the details, right? I try to make them sound very like it's pretty much true rather than one part of it. So
Yeah.
2
Well, I
truths.
mean, and it should be that way because otherwise it would be too obvious. So those
Yeah,
are good. I really like that.
hell yeah. Well, what'd you think at home? Did you guess right, or were you also stumped like Scott? All right, last one. This is kind of a newer thing. Again, we're gonna trial out here is essentially the segment's reactions to AI or artificial intelligence. So this was inspired by a X post that I saw where a guy posted saying that he prompted ChatGPT to predict who are the top 10 quarterbacks for this upcoming NFL season. And he had a list of all the different people, saying like, what do you think? What's your reaction to this? And so it kind of gave me the idea of I wonder if we can do something similar to this and kind of see, do we agree or disagree with some of the stuff that it comes up with. So the topic that I gave it for tonight, and we can do this for a couple different things, is I said this is the prompt for the upcoming 2025-2026 college football season. Predict who will win each of the Power Four conferences, who will make the 12-team playoff, and who will be crowned the national champion given research and info provided on the web. You ready for the results?
I'm ready. Yep, let's talk about
All right.
this.
And so this is a little bit relevant too, because for those that have been listening, that we did a this or that segment for the conference championships for college football. I think it was either last week or the week before.
Yeah, last week, yeah.
And so here's who it predicted. It said for the SEC that it's going to be Georgia. They said that Texas is the betting favorite, but they still have 4 new offensive line starters. So that's kind of a risk in the gauntlet of SEC. Big Ten, it said Penn State because they have a veteran QB, an elite running back duo, and Jim Knowles taking over the defense, which is, I think he was at Ohio State last year when they won the national championship. And then there's a lot of other teams like Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon that all have new QBs. So there's some question marks there. For the ACC, it said Clemson. They have a great quarterback, good defense, etc. And then for the Big 12, they said Arizona State. They're defending champs, preseason favorites, and they have a pretty good quarterback that's going to be leading the way there. So, Scott, how did AI do compared to our predictions that we mentioned?
I gotta say, I was ready to shit all over the AI, but it was kind of close to what we talked about last week, and I was pretty vocal about choosing Georgia for the SEC and Penn State for the Big Ten, as much as it pains me as a Michigan guy. I would say the ACC is where I think they have things wrong. I hate to always go with the favorite, and in fact, I didn't with the SEC. Um, but I think Miami is the better team, the best team in that conference. I don't think Clemson is going to be the ACC champ, although I guess they are the favorite, aren't they? They're ranked 4th, I think.
Yeah, they're ranked
Um,
pretty high, surprisingly.
yeah. No, so mine that would be my only change. I think I'm predicting Miami in the ACC, but we'll see what happens. I like Arizona State with the Big 12. So
Yeah.
honestly, they did a better job than I thought. I would have thought it would have been like Texas, Ohio State, like blah blah blah, but they no, they shook it up a bit, and I'm big on the Penn State pick for the Big Ten. I really feel strongly about that.
Yeah. I think there was just a couple differences from because we went back and forth on these of who was picking, but then I think whenever you would pick, you'd ask me and vice versa. I think for the Big Ten, obviously I picked Oregon. They're my team. It came down to at the very end, it was choosing between Penn State and Oregon. So I could definitely see either. I picked Oregon for biased reasons. ACC, I don't know that I actually named somebody. I think I was having trouble with. I don't like Miami. They're not a team that I lean towards. They usually choke like when they choked versus like Georgia Tech or whoever, like this is last year or the year before. So I think I might have said Clemson if I'm not mistaken. I think I said Clemson or maybe
SMU,
SMU.
you were kind of
Yeah.
back and forth on those two, I think.
And then Big 12, I remember definitely saying Arizona State. SEC, I still, I don't remember who. I don't even know if I gave who I thought it would be. Maybe I said Texas. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But
My thought on the SEC is there's a lot of weight on Arch Manning's shoulders. He is so popularly talked about. In fact, I made a simple little short clip about him from our last week's episode that is our biggest clip of all time across all social media. People are high on Arch Manning right now. There's
yeah,
a lot of pressure for a guy who he's only started a handful of football games. And this will be his first time actually being like the guy that they're going to look to. He's a heavy favorite for the Heisman Trophy this year. Those are big shoes to fill, especially when your week 1 game is against Ohio State. I mean, if they win that game, then he might be well on his way to doing all those things. But that's a come to Jesus type of a football game. It's going to really dictate what type of a football team Texas will be this year.
yeah,
So we'll see. I just think that usually the number 1 consensus team will show some cracks and break a little bit at some point in the year. And I think Georgia's the kind of team that's been here and done that, and they're going to be the ones that fill that void if that happens.
Yeah, that's fair. For the 12-team college football playoff, so they had their auto bids, the 5 highest ranked conference champions, as Georgia, Penn State, Georgia 1, Penn State 2, Clemson 3, Arizona State 4, and then Boise State 5, the best G5 champion. So that's who they had their top 5 for the playoff bracket. And then the at-large teams, they had Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Alabama, LSU, Oregon, and Michigan rounding things out. So what are your thoughts on the college football playoff?
Well, I love to see Michigan in there. I'm going to be honest. I don't think Michigan will make the playoffs this year, but I think they will next year. Obviously, I said Miami earlier. I think Miami will be in this mix. And I could actually see, this is my dark horse for this year, but I could see Illinois squeaking it out and somehow sneaking into this playoff picture as well. I think they're going to be a much better team than we've seen recently. So there's my hot take. I think Illinois makes the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think Texas can make it. Obviously, like we talked about. Are they going to go unscathed? I doubt it. They definitely probably will lose at least one game, maybe 2 games. I don't know. I mean, Ohio State, I'd have to look at their schedule. Not saying that they won't make it, but it all depends on, honestly, some of it depends on their quarterback situation. I think they
Mm.
announced they're starting a redshirt freshman. So same thing with Michigan.
Yep.
We have a true freshman starting, so a lot of question marks. I mean, obviously, I know Oregon has new quarterback, a lot of new players. They've had some elite recruiting, I will say. So kind of like Ohio State and some of these other bigger schools, like they have the talent. It's just can they put it together? I think my hot take is I could almost see. I think LSU will make it. Alabama is still a question mark for me. Like I am
Defense.
curious, are they going to be Alabama that we've seen in the past, or is that the past? And now they are really, like still a great team in the SEC, but they're not like elite every single year like they were.
I mean, it's hard to say. I think that the fact that there's 12 playoff spots makes me feel like there's a spot for Alabama, but you don't know for sure until it happens, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's one where I have trouble. Like I could see it happening, but I could also see them maybe not making it. I do agree that Miami probably gets in, generally speaking, unless they're horrible. I think one that's underrated that I could see replacing one of the SEC schools could be South Carolina. That's
That would
one
be
that I think a lot of people are not talking about, but they do have a lot of talent. Their roster is very talented. And so if the cards fall right for them, they could
I mean,
definitely be a sneaky
uh,
team.
they're a good football team that's got a lot of potential this year. That would be awesome. I think to see a team like South Carolina kind of break through that mold and make the playoffs, that would be really cool. I could see them being on the bubble. I don't know if I would choose them, but man, that would be cool if it happened. I feel the same way about Illinois. I'm just kind of choosing Illinois as my team that's going to break through that bubble.
Yeah.
So you and I are kind of on the same page here. We're just slightly different.
Yep. But I mean, generally speaking, I feel like it did a what would you give it on a report card of its picks for the playoff?
For the playoff,
Yeah.
I think it played it safe. If you want my first impressions, I think it played it safe.
Mhm.
But that's not a big deal. I mean, if you're trying to be as accurate as possible, playing it safe usually gets you close to the mark. I would give it like an A minus, to be honest with you. I think that's AI sucks for a lot of things, but it does a lot of things well as well. And interesting projections here. Very
Yeah.
curious to see how AI expands. I would give it an A minus actually.
Yep. I give it a B plus. I'm kind of around that same area. I could truly see this being a playoff with a couple of changes. Like, is Clemson really the ACC champion, or is it Miami or someone else? Is it Alabama or is it someone else?
Who did it choose for the Natty?
Oh, national championship, they picked Georgia.
I'm A- for sure. Then I'm sold. I told you that 2 weeks ago. Georgia was my pick for the national championship this year.
Are you just controlling my AI?
I might be in charge. Who knows? That's wild. I actually didn't expect. I would have thought that it would have chosen Penn State because at least there's like the number 2 overall ranked team right now. But
Yep.
no.
So,
hey, listen, Georgia's only ranked what, 5th, I think.
only.
I mean, usually, like, I would have just assumed an AI would choose like a 1 or a 2 seed, but
Yeah.
that's cool. That's my pick to win this year as well.
Well,
I'm on board with that.
We'll have to revisit this later in the year and come back to this episode to see how it did. But that is
I would love
our
it.
that is our
About
AI
6 weeks in.
segment for the night. Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, I'd love to visit this about 6 weeks in and then reevaluate how we feel like it did.
Well, we could ask it the same thing and see what it says.
True.
All right. You ready for the halftime port?
Oh, dude, I've been waiting for it.
All right. So we're going to tell you a little bit about what we're drinking tonight. What is the proof? Some tasting and smelling notes, average price, rating scale out of 100. We got a question of the night. And Scott, maybe I'll let you start for this one.
Okay. Well, this is a new bottle that I opened tonight. We have been to this distillery together. I know you've been there multiple times, but this is Rabbit Hole, and it is the Cave Hill Bourbon. And it's the black label. It's been good. It's been enjoyable. This one is a 95 proof, so it's a little bit lower on the heat than some of the stuff that I have featured on the podcast before. This one, from my research, I think this is accurate. It is aged 4 years, so not a super long age, but plenty of time to get that bourbon taste.
Yeah.
And it is located in Kentucky. It's in Louisville. This one actually is a little more expensive than the last 2 that I featured. This one usually retails around 60. I found it on sale for 55, so I bought it. And it is very unique. I was actually talking to Deeb before the podcast. This thing has kind of like a honey smell. I'll go through the smell and then the taste. The smell is kind of like honey and then like apple, just kind of like some sweet fruit flavors. It smells a little bit like corn on the cob, which is maybe a weird way to describe it, an aroma, and then a little bit of caramel. And then when I tasted this, because tonight's the first time that I think I've ever had this. I know we went to their distillery, but I don't think I tried this specific one. The taste, very heavy honey flavor on this one. If you're a bourbon drinker and you want that kind of honey flavor, definitely Rabbit Hole Cave Hill. And then the other things I kind of noticed is a little subtle oak, mint, and then what I'm calling cereal, but really it's like the taste of Cheerios almost, like the aftertaste of Cheerios is kind of subtly mixed in there. I say that as a as a father who uses Cheerios to keep my son happy sometimes. So sometimes I steal some of his, but it's good. It is a lower proof. Like I said, it was only 95 proof. I think if you up this thing's proof to 101, 105, somewhere in that range, this would be an absolute banger because the only thing it's lacking is just a little bit of heat for my bourbon preference. But if you're not a huge high proof kind of bourbon drinker, but you want good flavor, definitely check this out. I gave this one an 84 out of 100, my highest ranking so far on the podcast. And honestly, it would be much higher if there was just a little bit more heat because the flavor's there. I just want a little bit heat.
Nice. Very in depth. I like it.
I feel good about this one. If you couldn't tell, I'm really enjoying it.
I really like Rabbit Hole stuff. They're kind of an underrated, not as well known place that we visited a few years ago. And
Talk about the visit too, because I think if people get a chance to go to Louisville, it might not be top of their list, but talk about what it's like going there.
Yeah, I mean, well, when we went, it was kind of a special event. So it was like a tent that they set out on the distillery premise, and you could just go around and you got like a little lanyard thing, and you could get like you had 5 or 6, I don't even remember, X amount of pours. It was like 6 or 7 pours where you could go up to the different tables. They had 4 different bottles of each of their brand, and they were all different, styles of it. And so you could just go around and grab like a glass and get some taste. And they had a music playing. It was just a vibe. It was a really cool, overall experience. And then last year we did the actual tour, which is they have a really nice tasting room as well. So they didn't have the tent thing last year when we went.
Yeah,
So
that tent thing was fire. Very
yeah,
fun. Very
super fun.
fun. What are
All
you
right.
drinking tonight?
I have this is making a reappearance, but I guess we're going more in depth this season. Four Roses, single barrel, barrel strength. It is the OESO. So they have all these different recipes that you can pick from. So OESO is the specific. So this is from the distillery. We got it last year. 9 years aged, Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. Just a really solid barrel strength. We tasted this one while doing a tasting at Four Roses, or before our tasting. We went up to the bar. We got a flight. This one stood out to all of us. We were all blown away by it. We're like, wow, this is incredible. So on this one, it is a little more on the pricey side. It's probably about 100, potentially 110, kind of depending on where you get it. So a little more expensive, but definitely worth it for the value. It's 118 proof, so barrel strength. So you definitely get that kick that Scott's looking for. I could send it over to you via um, the mail here, but this one is interesting. It has the smell on it is it's like red berries is the best way. Like think like raspberries mixed with strawberries or something like that. So it has a very distinct berry, vanilla cream, and like almost like an oak smell to it. And then on the taste, it's almost more of like a baked berries, like a pie. Think of like a pie when you're eating like in Thanksgiving or something. A little bit of that brown sugar and just some sweetness to top it off. So this one is incredible. One of my probably favorite ones out of the collection that I have going right now that are open. I gave this a 90 out of 100. So
Hell
best
yeah.
best score of the season so far. You ready for the question of the night?
Let's hear it, man. I'm ready for it.
All right. In your opinion, what separates the average athlete professional, or excuse me, what separates the average professional from the best or elite athletes in the world?
That's a really good question.
Mhm.
I think a lot of that comes down to more mental things because I think some things are God given that you can't build, but you can build a lot of physical skills. You can be coached on physical things, like angles of pursuit or when to jump or how to have your hands positioned or whatever in any sport. But I think when it comes down to it, the best and elite athletes tend to have their head on straight where the big moment doesn't phase them. Like they've been preparing their whole lives. They're mentally prepared for those moments. And in the clutch, they perform just as good, if not better, as they do any other time. The big moment doesn't slow them down. They don't have nerves. They have consistency. They're reliable. They're the people that that they're shooting the 3-pointer when there's 1 second left. They're the pinch hitter and then bottom of the ninth in the baseball game. They're the people that you just count on because they have done it consistently. And I think a lot of that comes from mental preparation and just having some of it might be intelligence, some of it might be experience, but there's just a level of kind of just mental calmness as well. Really good example of that is Scotty Scheffler. When you watch him golf, you can just tell that that guy's composure is just on a whole different planet compared to other golfers. So I think that's, in my opinion, that's what separates the absolute best from the tier that's right underneath them.
Yeah, I like it. Very well said. What's funny about Scotty, and I think I mentioned this to you in the past, is if you go back a few years, he was like a hothead. Like he would freak out. He'd throw clubs. He'd yell.
Go to jail.
I know you don't believe it, but if you look up some of his highlights and it's crazy. Like he kind of, I don't know, locked in or went to a new level, apparently.
Hmm.
For me, I think what separates the average from the best or elite athletes, I think, is their ability to find the little details and do like fine-tune small things that a lot of people will overlook and do those things that much better and on that different of a level from your average athlete. And so I'm talking, you know, like for Scotty, for example, since you gave him his example, like he can control the ball when he hits it better than anybody in the world. Like that is the one thing. If you watch interviews, you watch, like Brayson talk about it and other players, they will say like with his irons, he can literally put the ball wherever he wants. It's like those small fine details that he has taken the time to work on over and over again that sets him apart from like your average. And so I think it's those fine details, finding what those are and continuing to do them at an unseen level or a better level. That's kind of what my evaluation is.
Yeah. No, I agree. There's just a clear difference between the prep and the legwork. I mean, in any sport, any coach tells you that most of your success happens off the cameras, right? Like all the preparation that you're doing. So
Yep,
I'm right there with you.
for sure. All right. Well, that's a halftime pour. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers, brother. These are good ones tonight.
All right. Let's do a community call out. What do we got for this one?
Yeah. So our fan of the week is what we call it, but just a comment that we really appreciated was this week it was Belnitz Bits commenting about his thoughts on players being able to conduct sports betting. And in his case, he kind of said, as a topic we had last week, and he said that he thinks they should be able to bet, but not at all on the sport that they play because they might have some insider tricks or knowledge. And I think that's a point you brought up last week, Deeb. But Belnick, thank you for your thoughts on that because it is a very controversial topic.
Yep.
And then who's our hater of the week? What happened with that one?
So we have Gavin or at G Russell on TikTok. Was giving us some hate for us dunking on Justin Fields. I think it might have been me in the clip for being trash from our tier list. So, whatever it was in the discussion that we had, I think we were talking about him. So, just want to say, thanks for sharing your opinion and being a hater, but we can agree to disagree on that topic.
Yeah, I think he was talking about how he has upside and he had a bad offensive line and didn't have offensive weapons. And I'm like, he's on the Jets now. That hasn't changed. Like, yeah, they have Garrett Wilson out there, but everything else in that equation is exactly the same.
Yep.
So yeah, we're gonna put him low on our tier list. Thank you for affirming our point, but also thank you for commenting on that because it is fun to have the dialogue.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's make some picks. So, super exciting. We have college football opening weekend, Scott. It's finally here. Now
Thank
we don't
God.
have anything too crazy, but we do have one reasonable game out there this week, right?
Iowa State and Kansas State is kicking off this week. Two ranked teams playing really on the week before. I would really think is kind of the true week one of college football. So we're in for a treat with that game. Iowa State is ranked 22, Kansas State ranked 17. Kansas State is the favorite at -3 for the point spread. I'm gonna throw mine out there, Deeb. I'm going with the upset in this one, and I'm putting my mouth and my money on Iowa State to win this game by upset.
Oh, I really like Iowa State too because they are an upset team, but I'm going to go with Kansas State, the favorite. I think they hold it down. Iowa State is not yet to that upset, like late period where I feel like they tend to get those upsets. So give me Kansas State in this one.
Fair enough. Yeah, then we have Idaho State versus UNLV, and we're gonna go with the favorite there. I'm gonna take UNLV. They're nearly 25-point favorites.
Now, again, are we picking with the spread for this?
Oh, you know what? Yeah, let's do it with the spread. So my first one obviously still applies, but let's pick
Okay.
with the spread, and I'll still take UNLV.
I'm going to pick Idaho State just because I don't know that UNLV wins by that much in the spread. I think it's like a 20-point game rather than 24.5.
Yeah, it could be. It could be.
So that's why I'm taking them because I still think UNLV will win the game.
I'm going beatdowns this weekend. We got Fresno at Kansas. Kansas is a -13 favorite, and I'm taking Kansas at -13.
Give me Kansas as well. I'm going to stick with my theme. The state of Kansas is going to have a good week for football.
Hell yeah. We have Sam Houston versus
Western Kentucky.
WKU. Yeah, Western Kentucky. That's a team that everyone is watching, I'm sure. Western Kentucky is the favorite, minus 10.5. Flip a coin. I don't know. What are these teams? I'm gonna go with Sam Houston just to be different. Give me the underdog.
I think Sam Houston keeps it closer than 10.5, so I'm gonna pick them. I think it's like a 7-point game. I don't know.
There you go.
I mean,
And
yeah,
our last one here is Stanford at Hawaii. Hawaii is a 2.5-point favorite here. And again, I'll take the dog here. I'm gonna go with Stanford.
I'm gonna go with Hawaii because I think they're playing at Hawaii and there's a major time difference. So the boys from, we're not major, but there is a time difference. So I think that kind of shakes up a little bit of the Stanford team with the time zones.
It certainly could. My hopes are that it's week 1 and maybe they've had time to prepare for that, but who knows?
Yep. All right, 2-minute warning time.
2-minute warning.
You got to put the timer up, and then we're gonna do some rapid fire. Hopefully, pretty fun questions for everybody.
You want to ask the first one or the second one?
Yeah, I can ask the first one.
Okay, and go.
All right. Would you rather be the guy who ends a perfect game with a bunt or the guy who drops the World Series trophy off a parade float?
Ooh, nobody likes either of these guys. I think I would rather drop the trophy because ending someone's perfect game with a bunt is kind of a dick move, man. Dropping the trophy means you're celebrating a little too hard. Who can fault you for that? You might make some memories. Yeah, so that's my answer. Would you rather box Jake Paul in a televised match or run a marathon while pulling a sled of bricks and Skip Bayless is yelling at you the entire time?
Uh, I'd probably rather box Jake Paul because that probably means I'm making a shit ton of money, even though I would most likely lose because clearly I'm not a boxer. But yeah, maybe for the money. That's why I picked that one. And I'd be on TV.
Yeah.
Would you rather defend a messy penalty kick wearing rollerblades or try to shoot a three-pointer with Shaq screaming in your face?
Dude, what? Uh, let me shoot the 3-pointer with Shaq. I feel like that would be hilarious, and there's no way I would actually get the shot off, but it for the memes, for the memes. Would you rather sleep in a haunted locker room with the 1990s pro wrestlers or take one slap from Dana White after every meal for a month?
Wow. Um, I don't really want to sleep in a haunted locker with big giant pro wrestlers, but it might be kind of interesting. But I definitely would probably take the slap after every meal, even though that would kind of hurt. I don't know. Those are hard. Would you rather throw a pick six in the Super Bowl or miss an open dunk in Game 7 of the NBA Finals while wearing tearaway pants?
Ooh. I think I would rather miss the dunk, dude, because I played quarterback and throwing a pick six in the Super Bowl is kind of a death sentence.
Yeah, not worse than not running the ball at the goal line, but worse. All right, it's
That's
a
it,
2-minute
yeah.
warning. So we have our last call, which is similar to when you're at the bar and they call last call and it's time to kick everybody out. So, Scott, what do you got for the last call?
Listen, it is fantasy football season. The best time of the year is here. We're talking college football, NFL, and everything else that kind of starts really soon. NBA and NHL kick off about a month later. But I'm particularly really interested in people's takes on fantasy football at this time of year. We've talked about some content the last couple of weeks, but we hit it heavier tonight. Let us know what you think. I really want to hear what people think about drafts, draft strategies, who they think might boom or bust, what sleepers they have. But I want that dialogue to live outside of just these episodes. So if you guys have some thoughts, let us know and let's continue that conversation because that is about to be the most exciting thing on Sundays.
Hell yeah. For me, it's, just thinking through that in a couple weeks, Scott, that we'll be able, well, for me at least, and maybe not, we'll see about you, but we'll be able to wake up in the morning. It'll be nice and crisp and cool outside, not hot. That nice coolness. And you just know that when you wake up on Saturday morning that it's time. and that college football is here and it's back. And then you can watch and we can talk about stuff. And then the next day, you have NFL, but you also have it on Thursdays and Mondays. And our days are just going to be filled with football. And that makes me extremely excited. So I'm also excited about this. I know we're going to be very football heavy for the next probably few months here. So hopefully those of you out there, if you enjoy football, you'll stick with us. And if you don't, that's okay. Hopefully we can still give you a little entertainment. And if you need to take a break, that's okay. We'll also cover some other sports, as things come up. So other than that, friends, cheers.